So, ladies and gentlemen, I get to try and follow that. That was absolutely incredible. That costs extra. Ladies and gentlemen, listen, my name is Cian. I'm the senior guide here in Croke Park. I've been working here for 17 years. So I've been tasked with trying to explain to you what this amazing building, what our amazing organisation is all about. And I've been given about 10 minutes to do it. All right, so I'll do my best for you. But basically, for those of you who might be coming here for the very first time today, not terribly familiar with the place, Croke Park is the home of the GAA, the Gaelic Athletic Association, which is the governing body that runs our Gaelic sports, our two national sports of Gaelic football and hurling. These are the two most widely played games in the country. Obviously, soccer and rugby are both enormously popular in Ireland as well, but these two sports, it's a different level, really. The best way I can explain it, I play Gaelic football for my local club in South Dublin, but in my club we also have a hurling team, we have a women's football team, women's hurling team, and we've children's teams as well. So in my club we have the guts of 2,500 members. We are one of 93 different clubs in Dublin. Not in Ireland, in Dublin, there are 93 different teams. So if you were told that the games were popular, that was probably a massive understatement. They really are the most widely played games, all right? Now, I know some of you have probably been frantically asking colleagues about the rules of the games and how the sports actually work. If I try and explain every single rule about the games, you will miss your flights home, all right? And we don't want that to happen to you. So the very basic rules of the games, the two sports, they're very fast. They're 70 minutes, it's 35 minutes in each half. You have 15 players on each team, and the scoring system is the same for the two games. So when the ball flies over the bar and between the two posts, it's worth 1 point, and for a goal, it is worth 3 points. And the games are so similar, we can play a football match and then we can play a hurling match on the same field straight afterwards. We don't need to change anything on the field at all, okay? Now, when it comes to Croke Park, when it comes to this venue, two words that are often used a lot are culture and history. So I'll talk about the culture side of things first of all. And this essentially comes from really the age of the games themselves. I mean, Gaelic football is approximately 700 years old in the country's history. Hurling is over 2,500 years old. It's one of the oldest sports in the world that's still played today, all right? So when the GAA was established in 1884, the games were already widely popular, but the problem we would have had is that different parts of the country would have had completely different rules on how we played the games. The 1880s is a really interesting period in Irish history because around this period, you're seeing different organisations being set up to promote different parts of Irish culture, whether it's music, Nómachanga Gaeilge, our national language of Irish, or music or dance like you just got to see in front of you. The GAA is essentially the sporting part of that cultural movement. So when Ireland was under British rule, playing these two games, Agus Tá Gaeilge Agam, and speaking in the Irish language, was a way we could express our identity. It's a way we could express our culture. So for a lot of people when they come here, yes, they're here to see a fantastic sporting contest, but it is essentially celebrating our Irish culture and our Irish identity. That's the culture side of things. The history essentially relates to one very significant date, not just in Croke Park's history, but in Irish history in general. The date is November 21st, 1920. It's more commonly known in this country as Bloody Sunday. Unfortunately, in Irish history, there's been more than one Bloody Sunday. But this one, 100 years ago, during the War of Independence, that morning you have chaos in the city streets. 14 British military staff are assassinated in different parts of the city. That afternoon, there's a Gaelic football match taking place on the very same field just beyond us here, between Dublin, my own county, and Tipperary from the south of the country. A few minutes into the game, a group of auxiliaries, a group of reserves come into the stadium and, against the orders they were given, opened fire amongst the players and into the crowd. 14 passed away that day as a result of what happened. Michael Hogan of Tipperary was the only player who lost his life. As a result, today we are sitting in the Hogan stand. So this is why it has its name, all right? In the aftermath of what happened, it's no coincidence that essentially 6 months after what happened here that day, you have a ceasefire declared, And another 6 months after that, the treaty is signed in London, which ends the war and establishes the Irish Free State, which becomes the Irish Republic. So in other words, folks, the reason why I'm telling you this story is you can trace a thread of the foundation of this country to the field just beside you there. And it makes this place quite unique. I'm very lucky as a tour guide. I get to meet people and visitors from all over the world, all walks of life. And the question I get asked constantly is, what stadium would I compare this one to the most? As you can imagine, given everything I've just told you, that's quite a difficult task, but I've managed to come up with one answer. As far as I'm concerned, today, ladies and gentlemen, you are sitting inside Ireland's Coliseum. That's where you are, all right? The only difference is we've much better catering here than they do in the Coliseum. Now, look, that's obviously a terrible joke after an awful lot of heavy content, but there is a specific reason I make that point. You're in a world-class sports stadium, in a world-class concert venue, where we hold amazing events like these, like the team over here on my right, okay? And you're also in culturally one of the most significant buildings on this island. It makes it a unique place, and one I'm privileged to be able to call my office, where I work. But you know, sometimes it's difficult to form a bond with a place if you've only arrived here for the very first time. So if you don't mind indulging with me for a moment, I'll share with you my favourite memory of Croke Park, okay? I am a Gaelic football fan, all right? I know there might be hurling people in the room. Apologies to the hurling people, but football is my graw. It's what I was brought up with. And of course, I'm from Dublin. Dublin is predominantly a Gaelic football city. There are pockets of the city where hurling is more popular, but football is where we're strongest. We are the second most successful football county in the country. You can understand why there's a bit of a glitch in my throat at having to admit, second most successful. Our great rivals, Kerry, from the southwest of the country, are the most successful football team in the country. The two teams have a storied rivalry that goes back over about 140 years. They produce classic matches against each other, and the two teams play a wonderful, attractive, attacking style of football. Okay? Usually results in spectacular contests out in the field here. But 2011 was a bit of a bizarre one. Kerry had won at the time 37 All-Ireland titles. Dublin at the time had won 25 All-Ireland titles. Yet the two teams had not played each other here in a final in a quarter of a century, 25 years. An extraordinary amount of time to go without the biggest final in Gaelic football, Dublin versus Kerry. I remember where I was sitting, section 330, row B, seat 8, in the Hogan stand just underneath us here. And I remember having my head in my hands with about 7 minutes to go as Kerry stroked over yet another point to put them 4 points up. And Kerry do not lose 4-point leads in an All-Ireland final. It simply doesn't happen. So, you know, I'd resign myself to the cliches of all supporters, and I think we've all been through this at some stage with our own teams. Maybe they'll learn from this. Maybe they'll grow. You know, you have to lose a final before you can win a final, and all that nonsense you tell yourself when your team are being beaten. And then out of nowhere, a Dublin player manages to score a goal into the Hill 16 end of the ground behind you here. So the gap has gone from 4 points to 1 point, 5 minutes on the clock, game on. 30 seconds later, a defender on our team, a guy called Kevin Nolan, never scored a point in his life, decides now is the moment to shoot at the posts. I am screaming at this player, what the hell are you doing? And then mid-sentence I realise he's caught the ball perfectly and it's gone sailing over the bar for the equalising score. As you can imagine, I nudged the guy beside me and I said, told you he was a brilliant point taker. Brilliant kicker, Kevin, I've always said it, all right? So it's now level scores. 2 minutes later, 3 minutes left in the game, Dublin player manages to lose his marker, slots the ball over the bar. We're now in front by a point. This is it. We're going to win the All-Ireland title for the first time in 25 years against our biggest rivals. So sweet. Minute left on the clock. Kieran Donaghy, one of Kerry's brilliant forwards, managed to score a point from an outrageous angle in the corner of the stadium. He's no right, he's desperate to be shooting from there, and yet he's done it. And see the equalising score. In 2011, there was no extra time in an All-Ireland final. There was no penalties. If the final was a draw, you replayed the final 3 weeks later. So everyone is, yeah, I hear what in front of me? It's extraordinary, isn't it? But that's what happened. So everyone's now on their phones wondering where the hell they're going to get tickets for this replay. The official sticks up the board on the sideline. We've got 2 minutes. There's 2 minutes left in the game to try and pick a winner. Ball goes up one end of the field. Nothing really comes of that. Ball goes sailing down the other end of the field. Nothing really happens there. Up the other end of the field. And once more, and the Dublin player's tripped. He's fouled. It's about 45 metres out from goal. Looking up the clock, 71 minutes, 13 seconds. This is it. This is the kick to win the title for the first time in 16 years against our biggest rivals. Who on earth do you turn to take that kick? The guy who took the kick was our goalkeeper. So I want you to imagine what it must have been like for the goalkeeper, having to walk 100 metres up the field. No pressure on you, Stephen. Relax, take your time. As 82,000 pairs of eyes stare at him as he places the ball down for the kick, he'll be remembered for forever. So, hits the ball. I'm not going to lie. I looked up. I name-checked everybody. God, Buddha, Allah, Ra, Ganesh, whichever one of you it is, please send the ball over the bar. Ball drops over the bar, between the posts. We've gone in front by a point. Something like 10 seconds later, the final whistle blows. We've won it. Last kick of the game, biggest rivals, 16 years. As you can imagine, the blue half of the stadium erupted. I mean, hats, scarves, small children thrown wildly into the air. Now, in my defense, I caught the kid and I put her down. There was no harm done, all right? But the point of telling you that story, the guy who hit the winning score for us, Stephen Cluxton, the goalkeeper, he went on to become captain of the Dublin team, has won an unprecedented 6 in a row. So as you can imagine, to the people outside, those glass windows there, and all the houses, an absolute hero in this city. Stephen Cluxton, for a living, is a biology teacher. Our players are amateurs. They're not professionals. They're not paid money to play the games. This is a place where ordinary people, teachers, farmers, doctors, students, nurses, soldiers, event staff, tour guides, do the extraordinary. That's what this place is. That's where you're having your event today. So just keep that in your mind, all right? By the way, it's just occurred to me, I completely forgot to tell you some of the facts and figures. Capacity of the stadium, because I realise there's probably money riding on this on some tables. It's 82,300 people. It is the 4th largest stadium in Europe. The Nou Camp in Barcelona is currently undergoing redevelopment, as you guys would know better than most. Wembley in London, the Bernabeu in Madrid, and then Croke Park. So 82,300 people. A fact I love to give you, it's a big stadium in any country. In a country the size of Ireland, it's actually the equivalent of the 5th largest city in the country. The order is genuinely Dublin, Belfast, Cork, Limerick, Croke Park. This is bigger than Galway. So when these guys and our operations team put on an event, we're dealing with a city worth of people. I don't mind telling them, I don't know how you do it. It is something I really admire them for. But they're my friends, so I'm not going to praise them too much, all right? So yeah, it is an incredible place to be in, and it's an incredible place to get to be able to call my place of work. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're all having a fantastic evening here. Are we ready to? We're ready to rock and roll. Okay, so Blue over here.